Good morning, this is Lisa, CEO of Site for Wight, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Saturday the 28th of January 2023. I'm delighted to say that the newsletter has gone out to everybody this week, and I hope that you've noticed the save the dates. These include a theatre trip to Shanklin Theatre, our open day on the 11th of March, and our third holiday, which has been arranged for April this year. Please do get in touch if you'd like to join any of these activities. Also detailed in the newsletter is all of the activities that we do and clubs that we run. So again, please don't hesitate to call Susan on 522205 to register for any of these clubs. In the week coming on Wednesday at our regular coffee morning, we will be talking to members about research. We've been approached to ask our members why they don't participate in research, how they feel about research, and what could make research more accessible. This isn't medical research, this is just asking people questions to get information on how they think and feel about things. So if you'd like to come along to the coffee morning and join in with the research, please do give us a call and we can register a place for you. It'll be running from 10 till 11:30. With a small break, hopefully, in the cold spell coming up, wishing everybody stay safe on these very slippy surfaces. Thank you, Lisa, CEO, Site for Wight.
This is Chris, reading an article from the Island Echo. Serial arsonist strikes again, with 2 vehicles destroyed overnight. Arson investigation launched. A motorhome was destroyed by a fire in East Cowes overnight on Sunday, the latest in a spate of vehicle fires in the area, leaving many local residents wondering whether an arsonist is at large. Fire crews from Newport and Ryde were called to Kent Avenue in the town at around 15 minutes past midnight. A fire had started underneath the engine bay of the brand new 72-plate motorhome, quickly engulfing the cab and destroying the engine bay. The 2 crews worked quickly to extinguish the flames, which were contained to the engine bay area, before the fire could grab hold of a nearby wooden fence, which is now charcoal black. This wasn't the only fire in the area that night, though, as just around the corner and around 30 minutes earlier, a single crew from East Cowes tackled a blaze of almost identical nature that broke out on Victoria Grove. Officers from Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Constabulary were deployed to both scenes and conducted inquiries and investigations with those who watched the madness unfold. Whilst it hasn't been confirmed, these incidents are practically identical to 2 that took place on York Avenue back in December, where a van containing beer and one from a local carpet retailer were also targeted within the space of 10 days. At that time, police issued an appeal for anyone with any information regarding the fire, and it is believed the same will be done as a result of these latest incidents. Many local residents are growing concerned about the situation. A spokesman from Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary has said both fires are being investigated as arson. As part of any investigation, possible links to other crimes will be investigated. This work is currently ongoing.
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. Don't miss the deadline for the Vectis Radio Community Awards. The first Vectis Radio Community Awards are being held on the 31st of March, but the window of opportunity to enter closes on Friday the 27th of January. The awards are to honour, celebrate and promote the great work that community and charity organisations do on the Isle of Wight. Entries are free and are being invited from any island-based community or charity organisation, and there are various categories, including nominating individuals who have stood out in fundraising or as a volunteer. Event organiser Maggie Curry said, "I'm happy to say that we have received a lot of entries for our first ever event of this nature, but I'd hate to think that some organisations miss out on a chance to win an accolade because they were too late to enter. Please get your entries in now. Our panel of independent judges is eagerly awaiting the entries." Entries can be made by going to www.vectisradio.com and clicking on the link at the top of the home page. Entries need to be in by midnight on Friday, 27th of January.
100 competition to return to Hampshire for 2023 season. From Isle of Wight Radio, read by Joyce. The 100 is heading back to Hampshire this summer, bringing with it 4 weeks of spectacular entertainment and intense cricket action at the height of the summer. After 2 hugely successful years, the competition is set to kick off on Tuesday, August the 1st at Trent Bridge, with Southern Brave men's and women's teams kicking off at Hampshire's Aegeus Bowl on Friday, August the 4th. The Brave will then be back at home for the first of 3 double headers on Sunday, August the 6th, taking on Northern Superchargers. Their final 2 match days will take place on Wednesday, August the 16th against Birmingham Phoenix and Saturday, August the 19th versus Oval Invincibles. Recent years have seen a partnership with BBC Music bring the likes of Isle of Wight delight Lauren Hibbard to the stage. More than 500,000 people attended games during the 100th second year in 2022, including a record-breaking 271,000 watching live women's fixtures across the competition, and more families buying tickets than in 2021. All match days at the Aegeus Bowl were sold out last year, with a new record crowd for a domestic women's match set, as nearly 9,000 fans attended Southern Brave versus Trent Rockets. James Vince, Southern Braves men's captain, said, "The atmosphere at the Aegeus Bowl is always electric for Southern Brave matches. The crowd makes a real difference to us, and hearing the chants of Green Army really helps spur us on." Advertisement. Lauren Bell, Southern Brave fast bowler, added, "It has been incredible to see record crowds for women's matches. It means a lot to us players. Hopefully next year we can go one better than we did in 2022 and lift the trophy." More than 14 million people tuned in to watch the 100 action in 2022, and games will again be broadcast live on Sky Sports and BBC Broadcast and digital channels throughout the competition. For more information and to sign up for priority ticket access, visit the100.com.
This article is from the Island Echo. Is read by Howard and is concerned with diseased trees on the island. Trees at Parkhurst, Boldner, Firestone Copse and Haven Street that are infected with Dieback disease are to be felled by Forestry England from Monday 23rd of January. The disease is caused by a fungus. The disease blocks the tree's water transport system with devastating effects, but is not harmful to people or animals. During the removal of the trees, extra care should be taken and people are urged not to climb on log stacks. Heavy machinery will be involved in the process, so those visiting Parkhurst Forest, Boldner Forest, Firestone Copse and Cumley Great Wood are urged to watch out for large machinery in operation. Forestry England has said that the work will be carried out as safely and as quickly as possible in order to keep disruption at a minimum. Ben Phelan, Forestry England's local forester, explains, locally Dieback disease has caused many trees across forests that we look after to become brittle and unstable and a cause for concern. To protect the public, we're having to remove many trees across our various woodlands on the island. This will help to make Forestry England's forests safer for users and those living near our boundaries. The removal of diseased ash trees is unwelcome, but a necessary job that is vital to help prevent the spread of the disease to other healthy trees.
This is Chris, reading an article from the Island Echo. Sandown Post Office to close in March, with rumours of refurbishment and reopening. It has been confirmed that Sandown's only post office is set to temporarily close in early March, but with rumours that the branch will reopen soon after, following a store refurbishment. It was in October last year that Central shut its Avenue Road convenience store. At the time, it was announced that the post office would continue trading from the location for 6 months until March 2023. It has been confirmed this week that the post office will close on Friday, the 10th of March at 1700 hours. The future of the post office provision in Sandown is unclear, but rumours suggest that the shop is to undergo a refurbishment and reopen under new management, with the post office returning. A spokesperson for the post office has said, "We are looking to restore a post office service in this area as soon as possible." The nearest alternative branches are Lamorby Road in Lake or Regent Street in Shanklin. The post office was previously located on Beachfield Road before moving to Spa on Albert Road. It then moved again to Central following the closure of the Albert Road shop.
Developers walk away from controversial Bembridge holiday lodges plan. From Isle of Wight Radio, read by Joyce. Developers of a controversial holiday lodges plan in Bembridge are walking away from the site. In 2021, the land on the secluded Love Lane site had been earmarked for 2 one-bed eco holiday lodges by the company, Love Lane IOW, which caused uproar in the local community. There had been 300 objections to the plans, but now, after a challenging planning history, with the plans ultimately refused, the land has been split into 2 plots and is up for auction. Listed with the land and property auctioneers Clive Empson, each plot has a guide price of £30,000 and above. The complaints against the scheme were branded as, quote, organised campaign, unquote, that, quote, bordered on mass hysteria, unquote, by the planning agents, Plan Research. It was also alleged police were called to the site 8 times during the planning process. Planning documents said the lodges would provide maintenance to the woodland as the site has fallen into neglect. The application was determined by the government's planning inspectorate, as the Isle of Wight Council missed its statutory deadline to do so. Both authorities agreed, however, the application should be refused due to the impact on the rural character of the area. Both plots, 0.19 acres and 0.17 acres respectively, have vehicle access to Love Lane and electricity and water connections. The site can be used for, quote, glamping, unquote, for up to 28 days a year.
This article is read by Howard again, and is from the Island Echo, to do with the red squirrels to be saved on the island. Over the last 150 years, England's red squirrel population has significantly declined, but now a new action plan is being launched today, that's Saturday. On Red Squirrel Appreciation Day, 21st of January 2023, the UK Squirrel Accord, that's UKSA, launches a new action plan to help protect and enhance England's endangered red squirrels. This will make a positive contribution to the dedicated conservation efforts already taking place and complement the Red Squirrel Action Plan or strategies underway in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. The England Red Squirrel Action Plan, that's ERSAP 2023-2028, has 4 key aims: protect, identify and strengthen red squirrel populations across the current range, expand the current range of red squirrels, support and improve collaborative action at all levels, promote better understanding and support for red squirrel conservation across England. Delivering the actions needed at the scale required to achieve these goals is a complex and significant challenge. The ERSAP provides a framework of strategic actions to underpin and guide red squirrel conservation and recovery in England. Successful delivery of the plan will depend on strong collaboration between stakeholders at local and national levels, including community groups, conservation organisations and government agencies. Effective communications that raise awareness of and engagement in red squirrel conservation are also vital. A new stakeholder group is being set up to start delivering the actions. The plan will be reviewed and updated in 5 years. During this time, UKSA will work with various stakeholders to achieve an increase in red squirrel range and time spent conserving red squirrels. The government, alongside the Forestry Commission and Natural England, has worked with others in the UKSA partnership to deliver the action plan and will support its implementation through actions such as habitat creation to protect the long-term future of this iconic species. Kay Hoare, who's director of the UK Squirrel Accord, said, "Red squirrels are an important part of England's natural heritage. Working together, we can ensure they have a positive future by mitigating the tragic declines in their numbers. While human actions endangered these much-loved mammals, it's also human actions that can reverse their fate. It's only thanks to the fantastic efforts of all those involved in red squirrel conservation that we still see them on the English mainland today." The New England Red Squirrel Action Plan aims to build on this valuable work and ensure our only native squirrel survives for future generations. Lord Kinnoul, Deputy Lieutenant Chair of the Red Squirrel Survival Trust, said, "We must halt the loss of biodiversity we're sadly witnessing in England. As well as bringing much joy to people's lives, red squirrels are integral to our woodland ecosystems and support the natural regeneration of our woods. We encourage everyone to support it, to get involved however you can, and spread the message far and wide. We all look forward to a day when our woods turn red again with these beautiful creatures."
This is Chris, reading an article from the Island Echo. Toothless campaign to launch on the Isle of Wight, calling for an NHS dentist for everyone. Toothless in England, the pressure group set up in 2021 calling for an NHS dentist for everyone, has launched a campaign group on the Isle of Wight. Toothless on the Isle of Wight aims to highlight the plight of islanders who have found themselves increasingly unable to access NHS dental care. The number of NHS dental practices on the island offering either preventative or urgent NHS dental treatment to residents has been in free fall for years. The negative impact this is having on families, men, women and children is taking its toll. It is often so severe that some are taking matters into their own hands. Stories of DIY dentistry are commonplace. Needless to say, such practices put people at risk of harm and serious illness. There are also concerns that with fewer dental practices offering NHS treatments, many oral cancers will simply go undetected. In fact, the latest data released by the Mouth Cancer Foundation shows that incidence of oral cancer has risen by 49% over the past 10 years. Chris Mace, campaign volunteer and spokesperson for Toothless on the Isle of Wight, says, "Myself and my wife moved to the island in October 2021. We have had an NHS dentist all our lives. We managed to get registered at our local NHS doctor's surgery here in East Cowes straight away. But when it comes to finding an NHS dentist, we've been met by a brick wall. No dentist has an NHS waiting list. Every dentist we contact wants us to go private." British Dental Association Chair Eddie Crouch said, "Even before COVID struck, NHS dentistry on the Isle of Wight was in crisis. The pandemic has left this service on the critical list and will only see progress if the new government turns the page on a decade of failed contracts and underfunding." Over the summer, Rishi Sunak pledged to restore NHS dentistry. His slogans will ring hollow until we see some urgency from ministers and real commitment to save a service on the brink. The launch of the Toothless campaign on the Isle of Wight comes at a critical time for NHS dentistry. The House of Commons Health and Social Care Committee recently launched an inquiry into NHS dentistry, as it found that 90% of NHS dentists were not accepting new patients. Toothless on the Isle of Wight is asking islanders to email them their stories about how the lack of access to NHS dental services has affected them and their quality of life. You can email contact@englandsteeth.org.
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. Ground investigation work due to start on Roxall landslip. Ground investigation works are due to start in Roxall following a landslip that reduced part of the B3327 to a single lane. It was in November last year that a 4-metre section of embankment collapsed onto St John's Road, near to its junction with Apple-Durcombe Road. Since then, temporary traffic lights have remained in place. The Isle of Wight Council has now appointed Island Roads to arrange ground investigation works, which will help develop design options for repairs. Councillor Phil Jordan, Cabinet Member for Highways and Infrastructure, said, "Until we get the results, we won't be in a position to know what sort of solution will be needed to fix this landslip or the timescales involved. We're working to reopen the road to two-way traffic as swiftly as possible, but until there's been further analysis, it is important we do not remove the debris, as this could potentially destabilise the embankment further. We hope this explains the current inconvenience."
Taken for a ride, residents could see 10% council tax hike. From Isle of Wight Radio, read by Joyce. Ryde residents may be in for a shock when they open their council tax bill. The precept could go up by nearly 10%. Papers have been released by the Ryde Town Council RTC, ahead of its crunch meeting on Monday, January 30th, setting out how the town's money could be spent. The recommended option for councillors to consider would see the average Band C resident pay £12.70 more a year, jumping from £134.94 to £147.64, a 9.4% increase. The proposals include contributions to summer events held in the town, Isle of Wight Pride and South Island's 7 Sports Tournament, and an increase in allotment fees. It also takes into account the added inflationary pressures. In a report from the RTC's finance officer, the cost of living crisis was recognised, but says the most effective recovery will come from direct investment in our community. As a result, the council is looking to increase its precept, the money it asks the Isle of Wight Council for and is collected from residents, from £1,258,270 to £1,384,098, an additional £125,828. It is the only town, parish or community council on the island to ask its residents for more than £1 million. Newport and Carisbrooke, the second largest area behind Ryde, last year set its precept and asked residents for £729,767. A community development role could also be funded for £30,000, which aims, RTC says, to help the whole community bring about positive social change, improvement to their area, and promote groups. RTC could take over the financial support of Ryde Help Centre, based in Ryde Library, from the Isle of Wight Council for £16,000 a year. A further £24,500 could be added to the public conveniences budget due to inflation, but mostly to fund future repairs to the toilets as vandalism has increased. To try to stop the damage, RTC is investigating whether to introduce a fee to use the toilets. Another £10,000 has been added to the decorative lighting budget. To make savings, the budget for Ryde Skate Park could be cut from £15,000 to £7,500. The precept for Ryde residents increased by 2.5% last year. The final decision will be made by councillors on Monday.
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. RNLI benefits from fundraising in memory of late pub landlord. The late Barry Cass, the legendary landlord of the Duke of York in Cowes, was fondly remembered at Cowes Lifeboat Station when a cheque for £5,420.17 was recently presented to the RNLI by his widow Sally. The money was raised from a special Barry Cass Memorial fundraiser party at the public house, where Sally is now the pub's licensee following Barry's death 2 years ago. Further donations were given directly to the RNLI, taking the actual total to over £6,000. There was yet more good news for the life-saving charity, with Sally's decision to make the fundraiser party an annual event. Also at the cheque presentation were station members rewarded for their commitment and skill. 2 launch authorities, Harry Leslie and John Mason, Both received the RNLI's prestigious Excellence in Volunteering Awards. Harry for his first-class management skills, imparting his extensive maritime knowledge and supporting all volunteers. John for his skill in training all the newcomers to reach a high level. The boat crews on 3 2021 Shouts were recognised by the RNLI for their skills. A.D. Stothard, Jack Banks, Andy Bond, Adam Wilson, Willoughby Matthews, Andy Stretton, Matt Randall and Jason Hughes. Certificates were presented for crew completing the commercial STCW 95 first aid courses. Jason Hughes, Jason Moore, James Findlay, Josh Matthews and Jimmy Ingram. Also officially thanked for her operational service was retired Launch Authority Jane Reeve. Presenting the awards was RNLI Council member and local resident Andrew Cooper.
This article is read by Howard and is from the Island Echo regarding a new state-of-the-art sports centre which is opening in Cowes. A brand new sports facility has opened its doors as the island's home of tricking moves to bigger premises in Cowes. The new space for White Tricks is one of the largest in the UK, boasting a 150 square foot floor sprung with over 4,000 springs. The new centre triples the organisation's capacity and includes a cafe and separate kids-only chill-out space. It officially opened on 13th of January with a party attended by 60-plus young members, plus their parents and coaches. Tricking is a training discipline that combines kicks with flips and twists from martial arts and gymnastics, as well as many dance moves and styles from breakdancing. It's very different from gymnastics because in tricking you take off from one foot and incorporate kicks and twists. The relatively new sport has been around for about 20 years, but is gaining in popularity around the world and has its own culture and global community. Founders and islanders Robbie Bates and Catherine Dancy, both coaches of the sport, passionately believe in the transformative power of tricking, particularly for neurodiverse children who might be struggling in mainstream school. The move to new premises will allow much needed space and flexibility for White Tricks, which currently boasts a waiting list of almost 1,000 children. It's been an expensive process, helped by crowdfunding via GoFundMe. Catherine Dancy says, "The move to the new place was a lot more than we expected it to be. A few surprises have come up, unexpected hurdles in the move between the old building and the new, so that's hit us financially. The whole island community has really rallied round. People have donated money and expertise in helping us get things ready in just under a fortnight. Lots of the kids are neurodiverse. A lot of them have ADHD and autism. They struggle in school. They're like the naughty kids in school, but here they can just completely come out of their shell, and it's just incredible. At least here they can just be themselves. School is not a great environment for many of them. If you don't fit into that box, then it can be really hard." One of the many White Tricks success stories is 12-year-old Josh Williams, who won a gold medal last October performing a triple full twist at an international competition in Oslo, Norway. Josh says, "I really love the new floor at the gym. It's really nice and soft, so when I want to go for tricks, I can get the height and bounce right off it. I really like the cafe because I can get a nice hot chocolate, and I like the chill-out space at the top where I can watch other people trick. It feels like the best place for me." White Tricks plan to host international competitions at the gym and put the Isle of Wight firmly on the map as a home of tricking. If you want to help White Tricks pay for the move, you can donate at https://www.gofundme.com/f/whitetricks-new-home.
Before we start the second part of the Talking News, here is this week's Society's news for the 20th of January. Swimming session is on Monday between 1:15 and 2:15 at Medina Swimming Pool. Transport is available if required, and the cost is £5 for swimming and £2.50 for transport.
Good News Yoga will be on this Tuesday at Millbrook House, starting at 2 p.m. The cost is £3, which includes refreshments. All welcome.
Coffee and chat will be on Wednesday between 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. here at Millbrook House. Please come along and chat with members, friends and staff.
Our monthly book group will be meeting on Thursday at the Lord Louis Library, Newport at 2 p.m. This group is free to join, so if you enjoy listening to audiobooks, please call the office for more details on how to join.
Striders is on Friday the 3rd of February. Members who are regular Striders will receive more details of the walk this week. If you would like to join the Strider group, please call the office for more details.
Our next God's Hill coffee morning is next Tuesday, the 7th of February. Karen will be attending this month, so please pop along and say hello between 10:30 and 12 p.m.
Hopefully you have now all received the winter newsletter, and if you fancy a trip to Warner's or the trip to the theatre for the wonderful sound of music, please call the office to reserve a place, as numbers are limited for both activities.
Items and sport. The Forgotten Million. £1 million promised to the Isle of Wight Council early last year was finally paid in December after the Isle of Wight Observer asked the government to explain where it was. The money was announced by Michael Gove on February the 7th last year in a statement about the local government finance settlement. He said it recognised the unique circumstances facing the Isle of Wight Council and its physical separation from the mainland. However, the payment did not appear in the settlement voted on in the House of Commons 2 days later. Carol Dennett, editor of the Isle of Wight Observer, used to work for former MP Andrew Turner, and she noticed the omission when working on an article about the Isle of Wight Council's budget. The Isle of Wight Observer submitted a Freedom of Information Act question to the government on November the 22nd. The original request was, please supply full details of the additional funding added to the Isle of Wight Council's settlement, together with any background documents which led to the funding being mentioned by the Secretary of State. The government had 20 working days to reply. Just in time, on December the 20th, they ludicrously asked what we meant by full details and background documents. It was clear officials were playing for time, as asking us to clarify the request restarted the 20-day time limit. We explained what full details and background documents meant. The Isle of Wight Observer was contacted again last Friday, January the 20th, when the government disclosed that the grant had been paid in December. There was no reason given for the delay or why the island's £1 million had not been included in the LGFS in February. The Isle of Wight Council confirmed that it had not been told in advance they would receive the money in December.
Hospital parking shock for patients. Patients and visitors at St Mary's Hospital have been mistakenly overcharged in the car park since October. An investigation was carried out after a county press reader raised the issue and asked why she had paid £6 for a ticket when that amount was not advertised on the parking board. It has emerged a software update on October the 1st is to blame. Since then, anyone who parked for 4 to 6 hours and used one of 4 pay-on-exit machines on the hospital site was charged £6 instead of the advertised £5. A spokesperson from APCOA, the company that runs the car park, said, "Having been made aware of the issue raised by the county press, we have investigated. We have immediately had the error rectified and confirmed that all payment machines are now operating with correct tariffs. If you think you have been overcharged for parking at St Mary's Hospital, contact APCOA by emailing csc.refunds@apcoa.com. Your email should arrive before March the 31st. Provide the date of your visit or visits and your vehicle registration and tell the firm whether you paid by cash or card." APCOA said this will enable us to validate their visit details against our records. We can then arrange for repayment in respect of a verified payment for the affected tariff. We sincerely apologise to anyone affected. This is an extremely rare fault and our supplier is reviewing procedures to ensure it will not happen again. Any claims not made by the end of March will be donated to charity in agreement with the Isle of Wight NHS Trust. After years of free parking, charges returned to the NHS site in 2022. It has been free in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, while the UK government supported NHS trusts by funding them to provide free parking.
Could Isle of Wight Devolution stop Hunger Games? The Vectis Party is calling for the island to reassess its relationship with the government after the island missed out on £2.1 billion of levelling up funding announced this week. Describing the news as disappointing but not unexpected, the local party claimed that the government's failure to recognise the island's funding needs shines a light on the failed relationship between the island and Westminster. A spokesman said, "In a bidding round where transport, infrastructure and tourism regeneration were front and centre, the Isle of Wight walked away with nothing. No doubt the likes of Bournemouth Seafront, £18.2 million, and Morecambe, £50 million, need revitalising, but so too does the Bay Area, with Sandown in particular in dire need of investment, and new transport links with Ventnor key to the town's long-term prosperity. I also think we could make much better use of £5.1 million than building 20 women's changing rooms on rugby pitches in Northern Ireland. Ultimately, if Westminster is unable to understand and accept our unique situation, perhaps it is time to reassess our relationship with them." He added, "We do a lot of work trying to convince Whitehall about the needs of the island, but they are clearly not listening. Perhaps we should be looking at the opportunities offered by devolution, such as having a directly elected figurehead with real powers, as some cities have already and Cornwall has just achieved. The Isle of Wight Council has submitted a bid for £14 million to support a new island green link transport route made up of 3 sections: a ride to Yarmouth public transport corridor, the West Wight Greenway, and a hub and spoke scheme in Newport. The council was only able to submit a single bid under the transport heading because last year it was awarded £6 million for regeneration in East Cowes. Cabinet Minister for Regeneration and Levelling Up, Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, said she was very disappointed that the bid failed, but she would continue to look for opportunities to bring the Island Green Link into being, either as a whole or in part. She added, "The island simply does not receive fair funding from the government, and I will never give up trying to achieve that. The levelling up bidding wars have been described as Hunger Games for the poor. Perhaps we should rename ourselves District 145.
Newport is set to lose its last Lloyds Pharmacy as an independent chain looks to take over. The county press has been told the Pyle Street branch is to undergo a change of ownership. It's understood Lloyds Pharmacy, which also has pharmacies at the top of Newport High Street and in Carisbrooke, is planning on moving into the building. It follows a decision made earlier this month to close the Lloyds Pharmacy branch at Newport Sainsbury's store. An announcement confirmed all of the 237 pharmacy sites within the UK supermarket will be axed. A decision was made following a strategic review in response to changing market conditions. The county press understands it is likely jobs at the Pyle Street branch will be affected by the change. It would mean Lloyds Pharmacy would only have 2 branches on the island in Ryde and East Cowes. Lewis has pharmacies in Cowes, Lake, Sandown, Shanklin, Knighton and Wootton. Lloyds Pharmacy said it regularly reviewed its pharmacy estate and any decision would be in the interest of patients, colleagues and the business.
Rescuing treasure. A massive cargo ship broke down in Southampton water yesterday afternoon, triggering a rescue operation involving a pilot boat and at least 4 tugs. The MOL Treasure is a container ship built in 2018, sailing under a Panama flag. She is 400 metres long and more than 58 metres wide. It is understood the ship left Southampton dock yesterday afternoon and was heading for France when she suffered mechanical failure. The tugboats assisted in moving her away from hazards, including shallow water areas.
Funds to help deal with bed blocking at St Mary's. Nearly £2 million has been given to the Isle of Wight to help discharge hospital patients who are well enough to go home. It is part of a £500 million national effort to clear the NHS of bed blockers, the term used for patients who can leave hospital but have no care organised. In December, there were 13,000 people stuck in hospitals across England. The problem on the island has caused the Isle of Wight NHS Trust to declare a nearly 2-month-long critical incident, as blockages in the system led to an inability to admit patients. The Trust has said, on average, there are now routinely 70 to 75 patients in St Mary's Hospital in Newport that cannot leave. From the Adult Social Care Discharge Fund, the island will receive £1,937,811, split between the Isle of Wight Council and the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Integrated Care Board, to address the current system pressures. A number of schemes have been highlighted to receive funding, including additional home care capacity to help the council's outreach team, additional money to the Bluebell House residential care home as a step-down facility, a new nurse-led community unit for patients no longer needing to stay in hospital, another community day hub on the south of the island to support hospital discharge, enhance telehealth equipment to provide better proactive support to care homes, offer enhanced rates to care providers to maximise their facilities, and increased use of agency staff. Darren Cattle, the Isle of Wight's NHS Trust's chief executive, told the island's Health and Wellbeing Board yesterday, which was Thursday, the Trust had benefited significantly from the additional funding, even if it was temporary. Isle of Wight Council leader, Councillor Laura P.C. Wilcox, said it was imperative the island received the money as she dreaded to think how the situation would be if they had not had it.
Extra Whitelink sailings for summer timetable. Whitelink is introducing 2 additional evening return fast cat services between Portsmouth Harbour and Ryde Pier, starting on March the 27th. There will also be changes to the Lymington-Yarmouth timetable to improve connection with South Western Railway trains. The extra fast cat sailings will run at 9:20 p.m. and 10:45 p.m. from Portsmouth, and 10 p.m. and 11:10 p.m. from Ryde. Crossings will also be hourly throughout the day. Foot passengers can also travel on Whitelink's car ferries on 10:15 p.m. and 11:50 p.m. crossings from Portsmouth to Fishbourne, returning at 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. On the Lymington-Yarmouth route, Whitelink's summer timetable is being adjusted to give customers more time to make connections between ferries and trains at Lymington Pier Station. Whitelink's chief executive, Keith Greenfield, said, "We have always made it clear that we would add additional fast cat sailings when customer numbers justified the decision. I hope many islanders and mainland customers will take advantage of these additional crossings." The ferry boss first indicated early last year that services would be reinstated once they were commercially viable. He added, "We also trust the minor amendments to our Lymington-Yarmouth service will be helpful for customers who use the connecting SWR trains to and from Brockenhurst and the rail network beyond." However, MP Bob Seeley claimed the changes were introduced as a result of his lobbying the ferry company and said this should improve cross-Solent journeys for many islanders.
West Wight residents were assured the area was a relatively safe one to live in, despite recent crime and antisocial behaviour being carried out by a small number of youths. A second public meeting was held on Monday night so the community could get together to discuss and tackle the problem. Some members of the public told the county press afterwards that although police said Freshwater was a relatively safe place to live, being compared favourably to other areas didn't stop residents feeling scared or worried about what was going on. The recent crime spree includes youths putting tree stumps in the road to stop traffic and using intimidating behaviour and being a nuisance in local shops and business premises. Some youths have been banned from Sainsbury's as a result. Faye Smith of West Wight Church's youth project said the community had felt the impact of funding cuts to youth clubs, youth services and schools. The youth club had experienced some incidents of antisocial behaviour, and she said the youths were known and people within the community were working with them and progress had been made. She said one positive was that the community had rallied round and was working together. After the meeting, new people offered to volunteer at the church youth club.
Couple living on the edge over vandalism. Police insist they are taking action over a series of violent incidents in Freshwater, which has left one resident living on the edge. Ex-Freshwater Parish Councillor George Cameron says not enough is being done to stop vandalism. Mr. Cameron said he and his wife have had to endure sleepless nights and have found themselves living on the edge all the time as a result of a series of attacks on their home. The ex-councillor, both for the Isle of Wight and for Freshwater Parish, claims recent abuse has left him with no choice but to quit his role. He said he was first targeted in the summer when someone threw stones at his window and pulled his plants out. A plant pot was later thrown at his window, and so was a missile-like object, prompting a police visit. While off the island for a night, the couple got a call to say a window had been completely smashed. Mr. Cameron says police agreed to arrange for it to be boarded up, but told him they would not visit his home. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary told the county press, "All calls that come into our control room are risk assessed before a decision is made around whether immediate deployment is required. Factors such as whether there is an imminent threat to life can inform decisions around which incidents any available resource are deployed to. Other local residents say stones have been thrown at cars and they have described youths running riot on a bus. Police insist their investigation is very much ongoing. The local neighbourhood policing team has been conducting uniform patrols and speaking to local businesses and other members of the public, the force said. Officers have also been engaging with local youths and their parents. We appreciate that antisocial behaviour can have a long-lasting effect on our communities, and we encourage people to please keep reporting incidents to us. Mr. Cameron said, "My wife and I can't sleep. Any bit of noise means we wake up and actually get up and look and say, is anyone there? Our television watching time is now spent on watching our own cameras. It's an awful way to live. We're on edge all the time." 2 teenagers, aged 13 and 14, were arrested last week in connection with a number of incidents.
Train and bus customers were left stranded last week after Island Line services were cancelled, and Southern Vectis left them at Tesco to wait for over an hour in the cold for a shuttle bus. Island Line was suspended on Wednesday and Thursday due to the freezing conditions causing ice on the rails, says the train operator. Train customers travelling between Shanklin and Ryde Pierhead were told to board a Southern Vectis bus with their train tickets, which would take them to their destination. But instead of taking them to Ryde Pier, buses left the passengers at Tesco Extra at Westridge on the outskirts of Ryde, informing them that a shuttle bus would arrive to continue their journey. Some customers waited for over an hour for a shuttle bus to arrive, seeing their journey between Shanklin and Ryde, a distance of just over 9 miles, take upwards of 2 hours. Speaking to the county press before Island Line's reopening, Joseph Silk, communications manager at South Western Railway, apologised for the disruption to train customers. He said the shuttle service operates as normal between Ryde Esplanade and Ryde Pierhead, not from the Tesco supermarket. We are sorry for the disruption to customers' journeys caused.
1 hurt in road crash. A car and a van were involved in a crash on Bridlesford Road on Monday. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary was called at about 1 p.m. 1 person sustained minor injuries, according to the police. The accident happened outside Bridlesford Farm. The road was closed for a while.
Rescuers' new phone. 20 days after the old one was destroyed by vandals, a rescue team has a replacement emergency phone. A new set has been donated to Ryde Inshore Rescue and it is now in place outside its HQ at Apley. Ryde Inshore Rescue said a big thank you to our anonymous donor. On January the 2nd, the lifeboat team slammed mindless vandals who had damaged the vital equipment. The phone is used to report an emergency on Ryde Seafront and links straight to 999.
£35,000 to help Dad's cancer fight. Tens of thousands of pounds has been raised for an island dad of 2 who is battling stage 4 bowel cancer. Rhys Payne of Manor Road Lake is hoping to go abroad for treatment he thinks could save his life. Totalling up funds from his Just Giving page, cash donations and from fundraising events, he believes he has now raised £35,000, 70% of a £50,000 target. Rhys, 35, was diagnosed with the condition in 2018. He has 2 young daughters with partner Carly, Olivia 3 and Amelia 1. He previously told the Isle of Wight County Press, conventional chemotherapy and immunotherapy treatments are not working I'm having to look hard for alternative treatment if I'm to find a cure. Fortunately, there is a treatment protocol to run alongside my chemotherapy. The treatment is known as off-label drugs and not backed by the NHS. Reese is hoping to go to Japan at the end of February or beginning of March. Another fundraiser is on the horizon to help get him there. Shankland's Firs Hill Childcare Centre is holding an extravaganza next month. The event gets underway at 10 a.m. on February the 11th at the centre on Albert Road.
Howard's long road to owning his new hotel. The new owner of one of the island's most prestigious hotels, the George in Yarmouth, has revealed how he has had a nerve-wracking few months as the £3.1 million deal has finally been completed. Howard Spooner has completed the sale of the hotel after leasing it for the last 4 years from Dame Diane Thompson, the former CEO of the National Lottery. But as well as getting the funding together to buy the hotel, he has also been involved in a long-standing court case with Sally Johnson, former weather presenter and ex-wife of former Conservative MP David Faber, who had brought a claim over half the share in the hotel, disputing that an agreement had been made in July 2020. However, it was revealed last week that Howard has won the case and is now in the process of recovering his £800,000 costs. He said, "I feel a bit poor at the moment. It's been quite nerve-wracking because if I lost the case, Sally would have had a claim to half the hotel, so it's such a relief. I can now get on planning with the improving the hotel and building it up even more. I agreed the price with Diane in 2019 and we stuck by that price. She has been incredibly patient and was hugely supportive throughout COVID. We had a great summer last year. When I first took on the lease, we would do 50 covers on a busy Saturday in the garden, and now we're doing 700. I've got 2 other local projects which will be up and running by Easter. I have Freshwater House, formerly the Royal Standard Hotel in Freshwater, which is now a private hotel and open for bookings. I also have Foresters Hall, formerly La Cucina, in Yarmouth High Street, and this is being turned into an amazing large family accommodation which can sleep 6 and is an extension to the George. Dame Diane said, "I first stayed at the George in 1995 and instantly fell in love with both the hotel and Yarmouth itself. Years later, I bought a little house on the quayside and spent a lot of time there. When I was coming up to retirement from full-time corporate life, I knew I needed a project to take on to help with the transition. At about the same time, the George came on the market. I knew instantly that this was my project and I bought it in 2014. When I retired from Camelot in December 2014, I took on the running of the hotel. It was challenging, extremely hard work, but very satisfying. After 4.5 years, it was time to pass the challenge on, and Howard Spooner took on the lease, and he has done a brilliant job since. You never really own a property like the George, despite what the legal paperwork says. You are merely the custodian of an amazing piece of island history. As custodian, it is your responsibility to invest in the infrastructure and fabric of the building to preserve it for future generations. It has been a real privilege for me to be its custodian since 2014, and I am sure that Howard will wear the mantle very well too."
Did you witness assault? Police are appealing for witnesses to an incident in which 2 women were assaulted in Newport last Saturday. A spokesman said 2 women had been drinking in the Hogshead on the High Street and left the bar at around 1:45 a.m. on Saturday, January the 21st. They walked across St Thomas's Square and through the alleyway to Pyle Street. At some point on their journey, they were joined by 3 men who assaulted both of the women following an altercation at the Pyle Street and Town Lane junction at around 2:10 a.m. One of the women sustained a broken wrist during this incident, and a third woman was assaulted as she tried to intervene. the men responsible left the scene on foot. We ask people to please not speculate on the circumstances surrounding this incident and the events leading up to it, and instead report all information to police. Inquiries remain ongoing, and as part of the investigation, we are asking anyone who knows the men pictured in the CCTV images to please contact us. There are 3 different men in total who feature in these images. Anyone with information is asked to contact police on 101, quoting 44230027 You can also submit information to us online at orlo.uk/04AZ0. Alternatively, you can contact the independent charity Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111 or via their anonymous online form at orlo.uk/QRB2S.
And now we're moving on to White Memories and Nostalgia. And I have a headline that reads, From the Simply Sublime to the Ridiculous, Island News of Old. Under the titles, the week's news or town and county news, the county press of old covered news items ranging from the sublime to the sometimes quite ridiculous. Here are a few examples, and needless to say, they are all genuine. In September 1889, the county press reported David Dunford, a carriage driver of West Cowes, was summoned for assaulting George Millward, another carriage driver. Millward stated he was on the parade when Dunford drove up and struck him in the face. Dunford said Millward provoked him by calling out to him. His young blood could not stand it, and he gave him a clout. He said Millward was the insultingest man in Cowes, fined 5 shillings with 11 shillings costs. This sarcastic letter appeared in January 1891, which read, Sir, I see in your paper that there are prosecutions for selling adulterated milk. I hope such powers may be exercised in West Cowes, as for some time past the water we are supplied with is so white and the milk so blue that on dark mornings it is nearly impossible to distinguish one from the other. Some days it just doesn't pay to get out of bed. On May the 2nd in 1891, the county press reported at J. Samuel White shipyard at Cowes on Friday, a young gentleman named Cunningham was using a circular saw when one of his hands came into contact with it, the thumb being nearly severed. Unfortunately, he then put his other hand on the top of the injured one, and the thumb of that hand was also nearly severed. This next item, from April 28, 1894, demonstrates that while most of us have no urge to be shot from a cannon or eat light bulbs, we're quite happy to pay someone else to do it. Unfortunately for the someone else, it's going to end in tears now and then. An inquest was held at London on the body of Owen Williams, 42, who earned money by frequenting public houses and swallowing bottles and other things. Evidence was given that he died from internal obstruction. A post-mortem revealed inside Mr. Williams was numerous pieces of cork and tin foil, a lead bullet, a piece of string with corks attached, 8 bronze pennies, pipe stems, and a piece of leather 9 inches long with a hook at each end. Was Mr. Williams mad as a hatter to perform such dangerous feats? Probably not.
In 1900, the week's news reported, though the phrase as mad as a hatter is a household one, it does not appear to be altogether true, for according to the annual report of the London Asylum Committee, there were only 4 mad hatters in London last year. What happened here in 1904 we shall never know. Perhaps it's for the best. Miss Chalmley of Accrington was found gagged and bound in a coal cellar with a note reading, "Revenge is sweet" pinned on her dress. The same probably applies to the following 1906 report. A sailor dressed as a fashionable lady badly beat 3 constables who tried to arrest him at Croydon on Tuesday. Back on the island in 1908, goings-on at East Cowes had raised some eyebrows. Correction. In order to avoid creating any wrong impression, we asked to state that there was no dancing at the East Cowes Congregational Tennis Social, as reported last week. Thank heaven we got that cleared up. Meanwhile, in 1910, events in a public lavatory at Ryde led to a court appearance for Charles Attrell when he was summoned for the use of profane language at Ryde Esplanade toilets. As the county press reported, John Rogers, lavatory attendant, told the court that the defendant's conduct was most disgusting, and when remonstrated with, he asked what he had to do with it, adding, "I helped to pay for the place, and the witness was well paid to clean it." The defendant was fined 10 shillings and 10 and 6pence costs. An edition of the week's news in 1916 made clear that it was not a good time for weasels out on the town. At Newport on Monday, a weasel was seen running along the high street, vainly trying to enter shops. Mr. Fry, who was passing with his coal van, knocked the animal over with his whip, and it was killed before it had done any mischief. We end with this joke, which appeared in the county press at Christmas 1914, making it more than 100 years old. McBall. The wife's gone for a holiday to the West Indies. Aubert. Jamaica? McBall. No, it was her own idea. Boom boom, as Basil Brush would say.
Now we go on to My View, and this is a headline that reads, "Small is beautiful in the world of retail." There's no hiding the fact that there are a lot of closed shops on the island's high streets. Every now and again somebody goes round and counts them, queuing up a round of tutting and hand-wringing as we all become the demise of the Isle of Wight's urban centres. Yet what we fail to take into account is how much worse the shops are on the mainland in similar smaller market towns and villages. Take a trip to Fareham, Gosport or Bognor, and you'll see how parts of these once thriving shopping centres are desolate compared to the bustle of Newport. National chains in big retail units have been closing down much more often than small locally owned and managed shops. And on the island, we missed out on much of that big box retail bonanza of the 1980s and 90s. So, if you consider which shops are still open here, it's the smaller boutique style shops that are surviving, and indeed thriving, and not just in Newport either. It's always in the areas where the big national chains never made much impression. I remember my cynical response when the bus station was redeveloped to provide the shopping centre on Newport's South Street. It was around the time that the old market site was closed so that the Cineworld complex could be built. Both of these, to my mind, were acts of cultural and economic vandalism. Painfully generic structures dominate the modest and historic streetscapes nearby, and in both cases seem to go out of their way to make it difficult for pedestrians to navigate them.
I recall a senior council officer giving a presentation explaining how the revitalisation of Newport would draw shoppers from the mainland. The loss of our old bus station and marketplace was a small price to pay for the jobs and prosperity that would soon follow. This person, I hardly need add, had arrived on the island shortly before presenting this vision and left shortly afterwards. Who else would imagine that shoppers from, say, Guildford might travel down and through either Gunwharf or West Quay, going on to do their shopping behind Newport bus station? Decades later, the folly of this conceit is still compromising our streets and shops, but at least economic reality has meant that the damage was localised. We'd have been better off making regeneration efforts, helping small local businesses, because that's where the future of the high streets lie. The island is not a place for big retail developments. There are not enough of us. Too much beautiful green space between potential shoppers. No big car parks, no motorways, and no huge distribution hubs. And that's fine, really, it is. We don't want those things, and if we do want big shops, they're not far away. We live on an island with all the benefits and penalties that brings. Let us find a way for our own local and vibrant businesses and entrepreneurs to bring life to our town centres without destroying them.
This is the public information section and is the monthly column by Bob Seeley, the Isle of Wight MP. The headline reads, "As promised, the island is getting a better deal." Regular readers of the county press will have seen last week's story about breaking ground to begin the new building work at St Mary's Hospital. Now is a good time to take stock and look at the extra investment coming to the island and specifically into the NHS. St Mary's is one of 20 hospitals nationwide benefiting from new government funding to upgrade outdated facilities and equipment. As the county press reported last week, the investment programme on the island will see improvements worth £6.4 million to our intensive care unit, a £12.2 million new emergency care floor and £5.1 million for acute bed reconfiguration, as well as a £6.7 million integrated mental health and community hub in Newport High Street. In addition, the government also funding a new £10 million community diagnostic centre at St Mary's, which will speed up tests, checks and scans. There are 160 new such diagnostic centres throughout the UK. These centres will enable more proactive medicine to be done more quickly, helping to get waiting lists down and ultimately save more lives. This is all part of the Conservative commitment to the NHS. This year, the NHS budget for England alone is a staggering £152.6 billion. Recruiting is also rising significantly. Since August 2021, nationally we have 9,100 more nurses and 3,700 more doctors into the NHS, a record. Locally, we are benefiting from that agenda too. Recruitment has improved significantly. During my visit to St Mary's this month, I learned that 22 local nurses have just completed their registered nurse degree via the Isle of Wight NHS Trust. In addition, 50 healthcare assistants from the island have been recruited along with 120 overseas nurses. I'd like to welcome them and thank them. Indeed, I'd like to thank all NHS and care staff on the island for the work that they do. The additional NHS money is part of more than £120 million of extra investment for the island that we've succeeded in getting in the past 5 years. Over and above NHS funding that also includes £50 million for Island Line and Ryde Railway Pier. The pier will reopen in the spring. Nearly £6 million for a heavy lift ship crane at East Cowes to help island shipbuilding and £20 million for Isle of Wight College. As promised, the island is getting a better deal, and I'll keep you updated on these projects as work progresses. If you would like to get in touch, please drop me an email to bob.seeleymp@parliament.uk.
What's on? At Shanklin Theatre in February, Who Killed Agatha Christie? On Tuesday the 7th of February at 7:30 and Wednesday the 8th of February at 2:30 and 7:30. 9 to 5 the musical on Wednesday the 15th and Thursday the 16th of February at 7:30 p.m. One Night in Dublin on Friday the 17th of February at 7:30 p.m. and Spotlight Isle of Wight Limited, the Spotlight Show, on Sunday the 19th of February at 6:30 p.m.
Anyone with a connection to the former Yarmouth Primary School can visit the site next Friday, which is on February the 3rd, between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. for a tour offered by Jade Kennett, Isle of Wight Council Strategic Development Officer. In order not to exclude people who work or have childcare commitments, an evening visit has also been requested, but no date has been announced. For more information, you can contact Jill on 760327.
Morpurgo's Private Peaceful at Theatre. A powerful adaptation of Michael Morpurgo's Private Peaceful is coming to the Apollo Theatre in February. The author, best known for his novel War Horse, wrote Private Peaceful 20 years ago and has described it as his favourite work. This adaptation by Simon Reed sees an ensemble cast tell the story of Private Tomo Peaceful, played by young actor Harrison Hartup, in this moving drama. For this production, the Apollo will take audiences to rural Devon and the battlefields of northern France during the First World War. The play is directed by husband and wife duo Amy and Dan Burns, using projection and technical elements. Private Peaceful runs at the Apollo Theatre Newport from February the 3rd to the 11th, not Sunday or Monday, at 7:30 p.m. For more information and to buy tickets, ring 01983 210 010.
Smash hit comedy One Man, Two Governors by the Horsebox Theatre Company will be at Department, which is formerly Elizabeth Pax, in Cross Street, Ryde, from Wednesday, February the 1st to Saturday next week. Holly Downer and Joe Plum lead a cast of local performers in this side-splitting comedy by Richard Bean. Tickets are £12 or £20 for two, plus booking fee, and they can be obtained from isleofwight.life/one man. And now we're moving on to the letters. And I have a letter here that has a headline that says, "Why can't the council deliver on housing?" and is written by Nick Stewart, the Isle of Wight councillor for Bryston, Calbourne and Shalfleet. Last Wednesday, at my first council meeting, I was the only councillor to ask a written question. I wanted to know how many houses for rental had been delivered by the council last year and how many they planned for this year. The answer was 5 flats and none of the promised rapid kit built properties. There are a limited number from Vectis Housing Driven Scheme at Branston Farm. I made the obvious point that the Liberal Democrat-controlled Portsmouth City Council is delivering over 1,000 dwellings, either new builds or purchases on the open market, so why couldn't the council deliver what islanders need, low-cost rental property? As an extra query, I asked if the council would bring all aspects of housing under the authority of one officer, and accordingly under a single cabinet member. We were told there was a housing manager, but of course that is not sufficient. It is unfortunate that in the last 18 months, the Conservatives have failed to work with the administration to support the delivery of housing, and the Alliance for various reasons has not been able to deliver. My family story tells how after the Second World War my grandfather, as chair of housing for a South London borough, drove the rebuilding of bombed, devastated areas. With little money but a lot of goodwill, they were very successful. We have very little money thanks to incompetent Conservative governments. However, it is clear Isle of Wight councillors as a body know how critical housing is to the islanders. I believe it is now time for the Alliance to ensure the council is properly coordinated and for the Conservatives to come off the fence and work with the administration and smaller parties such as Liberal Democrats. We can all learn from local government colleagues in Portsmouth and deliver low-cost, environmentally friendly housing for rental to islanders. As always, my door is open to serious discussion.
Entertainers are paid more than lifesavers, from Martin Jones in Ryde. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. According to recent reports, in those 5 seconds, Cristiano Ronaldo has just earned as much as our nurses and ambulance crews earn in an hour. Now count to 15, and a similar amount has been earned by Ed Sheeran. Put another way, if a junior doctor works for a couple of hundred hours, she could just afford the reported price of a ticket to see a Queen of Pop lip sync for an hour and a half live on stage. I fell out with football many years ago when cheating players started falling over and feigning injury in order to fool the referee into awarding free kicks and penalties. And the modern 4-chord ditties I hear on the local radio stations these days rarely satisfy my musical preferences. However, it is not for me to suggest whether these entertainments are worth their money or not, but it is difficult not to contrast an industry which seems to have plentiful resources with others in which we are told the bank is empty. Ironically, these high-paid people are only entertainers. The lower-paid people are potentially life-saving lives. Do we really put the value of the entertainer hundreds and hundreds over that of a carer? All my life, my ethos has always been hard work deserves fair reward, and if you need more, work harder. This echoes what my parents believed and how we brought up our own children. Sadly, I have recently started to wonder if this ideal is still relevant. After all, the pot is only so big, and these days, Western civilization seems to be putting increasing value on entertainment while decreasing the value of the nuts and bolts of society. While I doubt this is sustainable, it could go some way to explain why many of our youngsters are more inclined to aspire to fame and fortune associated with reality TV shows or subscribed social media outlets rather than study for years to enter, say, the underfunded care industry that is crying out for personnel. There is little doubt our country is in a mess. I would not normally be one to condemn strikes, but if my work was currently valued by society as less than 1/1000th of that of a minstrel and even less than that of a football player, I might also be tempted to take drastic action.
Article brought back memories of old Newport town, which is a letter from Alan T. Rowe of Wootton. David White's interesting article and pictures of Newport's lost buildings and businesses, which was in the county press on the 6th of January, had me searching my 1888 Kelly's Directory to find that Mill Street Bank was then the Isle of Wight Savings Bank, although I remember it as the Trustees' Savings Bank. Boots' rear entrance was indeed Queen's Hall for regular dances, but in 1888 was listed as Queen's Assembly Rooms, a general meetings hall, which by the Edwardian era became the Salvation Army Citadel, having moved from Lower Quay Street, where now is the Magistrates' Court. In 1934 they moved to their present citadel, a refurbished Methodist chapel in Pyle Street, when on December the 6th, 1934, the opening ceremony, to much fanfare, was performed by Mayoress Mrs. A. E. Harvey, using a silver key, which may be seen on request.
Solidarity over strikes. Patient Christine Lightbody joined striking NHS workers outside St Mary's Hospital last week. She was part of the Patients on Pickets campaign, which saw hundreds join workers countrywide in their campaign for more pay. On the island, 2 days of action was organised by nurses from the Midland Partnership Foundation Trust and the Solent Trust, which provide healthcare services on the Isle of Wight. Christine from East Cowes said, "Having had 3 major operations over the last 2 years, I have witnessed firsthand the dire circumstances of severely understaffed nurses working 12-hour shifts, often without a single break. Clapping for NHS staff isn't enough. Nurses are being dangerously overworked, and current salary levels aren't even paying the bills for so many. For the sake of both the welfare of health workers and the safety of patients, it's time that nurses are paid fairly. The government says it can't afford to pay nurses what they are asking for, 5% above RPI inflation."
And now we've come to the end. So it's a goodbye from me, Morris.
And goodbye from me, Francis.
The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the Scaffolding News follows that.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Well, that's the sound of the latest sport that we're reporting on blind people taking up. Any ideas what it is? Well, solutions later. But first, if you want a job doing well, do it yourself, or so they say. But does that really extend to training your own guide dog? After all, there is a well-established organisation which thinks that's its job, and that includes selecting the dog, socialising the dog and providing a good match. But someone who did decide to go it alone is Isabel Holdsworth, who joins me now. So Isabel, first of all, self-training a guide dog sounds like quite a challenge. What drove you to do it in the first place?
Yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted. My dog died suddenly in 2011 and I had to go to work and college the next day. Work was right across London and college was back across London the other way. So I was feeling pretty stressed that suddenly I would have to do this with a cane. I was doing it for about 3 months and I almost fell in front of a train at Liverpool Street Station, and I just came to the conclusion I couldn't do this anymore. I'd been told by guide dogs that there was going to be at least a year to wait for the next dog, and I just didn't feel I could wait that long.
You mentioned a cane, so you did have some mobility skills.
My cane skills were never brilliant, and guide dogs kindly sent me is it a rehab officer? I'm not quite sure of the wording, who said that I shouldn't really go out with a cane unless I had further training. But I did not have time. You know, I was holding down a job, I was going to college, life had to go on.
I mean, is the training something you just made up as you went along, or did you seek guidance?
There are some blind owner trainers in the UK. I talked to them. I talked to dog behaviourists, dog handlers. There was an owner training list on the internet. It was a group of people who were currently working their own owner trained dogs. I talked a lot with them. I did get a lot wrong, and there's a lot I would do differently next time.
What about finding the dog?
I found one actually who'd been rescued and had been in Battersea Dogs Home and was currently in another rescue. It wasn't the ideal way to start owner training, and I wouldn't do it that way again, but it worked for me.
Any disasters?
Yes, actually there was. There was one at King's Cross. On her first day, she spotted 2 police dogs, and that was it. She wanted to get to those dogs. So she started pulling, making an awful lot of noise. Another owner trainer had told me just to put her on the ground and lie beside her and calm her down. So there was me and her lying on the ground at King's Cross Station. That wasn't ideal, but thank goodness that was a one-off.
But did you therefore become a viable partnership?
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel that she was the best guide dog I've had. We had a real bond going. Because I had trained her, she knew what I wanted. I knew what she was capable of, and we were just a really good partnership.
I mean, you're going to hear people say, I suspect this is a risky thing to do, and you were taking a chance. What would you say to that?
It absolutely is a risky thing to do. Like, what would I have done if the dog had been incapable of the job? You know, I would have had to rehome her or else keep her as a pet. You really have to be prepared for failure.
You have previously used the Traditional Guide Dogs Association. How did the dogs compare?
I've had wonderful dogs from guide dogs, but this is just something special. I can't describe it. You know, I used to walk down, say, Oxford Street or a really busy street in London with my head in the air thinking, this is just, we've made it. This is great. And every step that dog took and every obstacle she avoided and every tube station she found, I trained her to do that, and there's no feeling like it.
Stay with us, Isabel. Listening to that is Sean Dilley. Many of you will know Sean from his work as a BBC TV and radio news reporter, and you may well have followed his story of how his guide dog, Sammy, was retired from service, leaving Sean without a dog and on what, as we've reported before, is still a very long waiting list. Sean, I mean, what's your reaction to Isabel's story?
I just say that even if I was a really, really good self-trained guide dog trainer, there's no way I could have the air miles and the experience. And in the same way that if I needed heart surgery, I wouldn't do that myself. I would trust the people who study for 3 years to learn to do it in the socialisation. But that's no slight. I mean, Isabel, you're much braver than me.
What are the biggest problems you're facing without a dog? Because you've talked about that at some length.
If I don't have to leave my house, I won't. It's interesting because when I'm in working environments, you know, the confidence is there, but just sort of being on my own without a guide dog who I trust with my life has been really seriously impacting.
Sean, could you have been better prepared for Sammy's retirement? I mean, after all guide dog owners go into this knowing that their dog probably has a maximum working life of 9 or 10 years, often less.
I had about 35 hours of refresher training with my long cane with the vision rehabilitation specialist, knowing that Sammy was going to retire. When we come up to March, that will be 6 months since he retired, 9 months since I went back on the list, and 12 months since I began the reapplication process. What I've been holding on to is the fact I know that guide dogs are doing everything they can, but it doesn't mean that it hasn't devastated life as I know it.
Listening to all of that is John Welsman. John is the Canine Affairs lead for the charity Guide Dogs. John, many people do seem to be waiting an inordinately long time for a guide dog, especially as Guide Dogs is keen to tell the public that they are life-changing. It's not surprising, is it, that people are looking around to see what the alternatives might be?
And more people are doing that. Guide Dogs is supportive of them, but as Isabel said, there are risks in doing it. There are challenges in doing it.
So let me get this clear. You're not saying, and I thought Guide Dogs might, don't do it.
No, we wouldn't say don't do it, but what we'd want people to do is recognise the inherent risk in doing it. And it's important to say also, Peter, that there are several charities now being set up in the UK to support people like Isabel, who, if they wish to train their own assistance dog, will be out there to support them through the process.
We've heard that the waiting list is a big problem. That was what pushed Isabel into it. What is the latest position?
The numbers of dogs being trained are going up and up and up as we go along, but it's a long process. It's not going to be a 5-minute fix, but we certainly have a strategy in place this year, 2023, to move that along significantly.
So, I mean, Isabel, when she did it, she was told at least a year. Sean has been told 2 years. What's the current situation? What would somebody be told now?
It depends on where you live and whether there's an appropriate dog for you. So there's no one answer for everybody. It's down to the individual, down to the dogs that are available and the suitability of that dog for that individual.
I mean, we often hear on this programme about people who have access problems to supermarkets with taxes. It's probably one of the most common complaints we get. What would your position be if you were someone like Isabel, who's self-trained? Would you have the legal backup that you would have if you've got a dog trained by your organisation?
It's quite a complex answer because a lot of the regulation around service provision is around qualified assistance dogs, not dogs in training. So this is where it becomes very difficult. With an owner-trained dog, where does the training stop and the fully qualified dog start?
But are you saying it's still got to be tested?
Well, this is why the European standards are being undertaken at the moment. So we've actually got a benchmark that we can use to qualify what stage a dog's at when it's in training, when it's fully qualified, and therefore its status in terms of its support for its owner.
Any decent owner trainer will jump at the chance to have their dog tested with a view to certification.
I mean, Isabel, you did that. You did it for 7.5 years. Would you do it again?
Absolutely. There's no buzz like working with your own trained dog.
We could go on with this debate, I know. Isabel Holsworth, John Wellsman, Sean Dilley, thank you all very much indeed. And of course, we'd like to know your comments and experiences, please. Now, that mystery sport again. Well, of course, it's ice hockey, isn't it? Obvious. And if you think that it's a pretty fast sport played on ice, well, you're right. But past experience tells us there are a few things blind people won't have a go at when it comes to sport. So when we heard of an event taking place in Oxford last week, which invited blind and partially sighted people to turn up and have a go at ice hockey, we wanted to know more. Here's just what a few of those who took part and took up the challenge had to say.
It wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. There were sighted people there and non-sighted, but you didn't really know who was who because everyone was just helping each other, which was lovely.
I skated when I was younger and then hadn't skated since then. Felt like I learnt again.
I've been on the ice before, but I've never done ice hockey before. Luckily, I didn't run into anybody, so that was a good start. Once you get your confidence up, get the skating leg back, it's really, really good fun.
Things like this are brilliant. If they could be not just in main cities as well, that would be really good.
What I really enjoyed actually is the fact that it's inclusive. Everybody plays together and the sound of the puck is the one that really helps.
I suppose it's just trying a new sport, something that I hadn't tried before. But I thought, ice hockey, I'll give that a go.
Absolutely petrifying, but also so much fun.
Once I built the confidence up, it was great.
I'd definitely give it another go, yeah.
Without a doubt, I would come again.
A lot of enthusiasm there generated by the day at Oxford. That's going to be music to the ears of the man who's the driving force behind this project, Nathan Tree. Nathan, first of all, how did your own involvement with ice hockey start?
I grew up playing ice hockey and roller hockey, and I started losing my vision when I was 19. It started to become a point where I couldn't see what I was doing anymore around the age of 23, and I quit. Then around 2017, I started dating an ice hockey player, and she said to me, I'm just going to Google it. Turned out blind ice hockey existed in Canada and the US. We got in touch with them and she said, let's go. We flew out 3 months later. I became the first European blind ice hockey player to go and compete in the Canadian National Championships.
And that had come as a surprise to you because obviously you did think when you quit that was it.
I think someone had mentioned the word blind hockey to me before, but with my vision loss, I wasn't identifying as, a blind person. So I was like, that can't be for me. And it turns out that it really is for me.
Now, my image of ice hockey is of a very fast game as played by sighted people.
Yes.
So what adaptations have to be made for it to be playable by visually impaired people?
Well, people's imagination of it is that it's a contact sport. It is still a contact sport, but there's no checking. So checking is purposefully trying to knock people over. We still skate into each other. We still push each other around, but it's not quite as violent. People have seen fighting in ice hockey. That is completely banned. In blind sport rules, it's played with a mixture of B1s, B2s and B3s. So from no vision to less than 10%. All goalies are B1, so they play with no vision and a blindfold on. The goal is 3 foot by 6 foot instead of 4 foot by 6 foot to give them more of a chance. And then all the other players are B2, B3. Some B1 players might play, so they might play with no vision at all. The puck in regular ice hockey is about the size of a biscuit and is made of rubber. R1 is scaled up, I think, 4 times. It's made of steel. It's hollow and has ball bearings in it, and it sounds more like a cowbell. So you can track that. For those that have vision, they can see a bit more of it. For those that don't, they can hear it as well.
This puck, much bigger, made of metal, hurts quite a lot, and all we're aiming to do is just with our sticks, we just aim to move it around, okay? So you can feel it on your stick. We're aiming to move it left to right, forward to backwards, that kind of stuff.
In order for that to make sense, I believe there are rules about when you can shoot, so people have actually had time to track where the ball is.
Yes, so there are 3 zones in ice hockey. You have the attacking zone. When you're in there, you have to make a clean pass to another player so that the goalie has a chance to hear the puck moving, at which point a buzzer goes that tells the goalie a shot is coming soon, and that gives the goalie a chance to make the save. Communication is super important. I always say that even in sighted ice hockey, it's just as important. We have 360-degree hearing and no one can see 360 degrees. We bang our sticks to tell people this is where I want the puck to come to. But we also shout and scream a lot. We bang on the boards. We make a lot of noise just to make sure people know where to send the puck and what to do.
Now, you were supported in this event at Oxford by Hilary Scanlon. Now, Hilary is an experienced visually impaired player from Canada, which is sort of the home of ice hockey in a way. And here are some of her thoughts.
Oxford is a magical place in a lot of ways. It's the only university in the world that has a blind ice hockey program. We need a GB national team ASAP. Today showed a lot of promise for that. I know that it's still in the beginning stages, but it's exciting to see that grassroots development happening. There was a lot of skill on the ice today. I think that a lot of the players maybe even underestimated themselves and their skill level. So it's definitely within reach, but that's definitely where I would like to see it go. And really trying to get more women involved in the game. This is clearly a sport that people have fun playing, even if it's their first time trying it. Lots of great comments happening in the change room. And as long as people come away either having fun or saying, I want to come back and do this next time, that's all that matters.
Now, Hilary is sounding super confident, Nathan, but I mean, what strikes me is a lot of the people who came are newcomers to it. I mean, you have to be able to ice skate to start with, surely.
Yes, you do, but that is part of what we include in our events is teaching people to ice skate. And, you know, we put an ice hockey stick in your hand that you can also use as a cane.
Oh, so you can kind of use it to walk with on the ice?
More to navigate, actually, so the stick finds the boards before you do.
Now, Hilary says we need to build a national team as soon as possible. That's not running before you can walk, is it? Or before you can skate? I mean, what needs to happen to make that a reality?
We need to get as many people just trying it and seeing who'll commit to playing. And so we're just trying to build opportunities and give people the idea that they can play something that might have been too difficult in the past.
And I think when this goes out on In Touch, you'll either be in Canada or you just have come back. Can you just explain what that's about?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to be invited to play in something called the Carnegie Cup, which is an inaugural tournament of elite blind ice hockey players to build, ideally, a blind ice hockey league in North America. So I'll be flying out tomorrow, and it's a series of 3 games which are going to be live streamed on Canadian Blind Hockey's website with live commentary. So you'll have your audio description as well. And that's really the highest level that the game has ever had. I'm fortunate enough to be in the top 28 players in the world right now.
I mean, that is incredible, really, the amount of strength. Can you see that happening with a GB team?
That is my dream. Yes, I can, because once I get people playing, they love it. They keep coming back for more.
Hilary makes one other important point about the involvement of women in the sport. How does that work? Must teams be made up solely of men or women, or can they be mixed?
Currently, it's a mixed gender sport. However, some of the males in it are a bit more physical. And I think actually, from my experience of just general ice hockey, a women's only game actually involves a slightly different skill, and it works strategically less brutish, I think. So I think it would be a great way to involve more women in the sport and more participation as well. They had the first women's summit in Canada last year, and they'll be having another one this year. And it's great to involve more women in a sport where they're generally underrepresented.
One interesting thing, you invited people to bring along family and friends. What was the idea behind that?
So I believe sport's about community, and I want family members to be able to buy in and understand what the participants are putting themselves in for, so they understand when it's, you know, I've got to travel for this, or there's a late night here, or expensive equipment. They understand what that's for and can buy into it. But also I want people to have fun with the people around them, so that, you know, they go back and they're talking about it with the people they did it with. It just helps break down those barriers to participating in a new sport.
We've talked about how far can this go. I mean, is it a Paralympic sport? And if it is, could GB have a Paralympic team?
So currently there are only 2 national teams. There's a third in Finland. We need 8 before we can apply to be a Paralympic sport. That is the goal. I would love to be a Paralympian. Please come and help me to do that if anyone wants to.
Well, I'm sure you've contributed to the enthusiasm. Nathan Tree, thank you very much indeed. And our thanks to Clodagh Stenson for gathering some of the material for us. We'll keep in touch with that, see how it's going. And that's it for today. But as usual, we want your reactions to anything you've heard, or indeed your views on anything you think we ought to be covering. Email in touch at bbc.co.uk. Leave your voice messages on 0161 836 1338, or you can go to our website, bbc.co.uk/in touch, from where you can download tonight's and previous editions of the programme. From me, Peter White, this week's producer, Fern Lulham, and studio managers Simon Highfield and Owain Williams, goodbye.
Scaffolding and skips news the week commencing the 30th of January. In the Newport area, Santander on 26 St James's Street, Cherry Godfrey 32 High Street, Congregational Church in Pyle Street, 29A Lugley Street and St James's Street, 64 High Street, the Co-op in Pyle Street, Halifax at 116 High Street, 41 South Street and 123 St James's Street.
And now the Skips news. Skips, Newport area, 10 Oak Road, Ryde area, 51 to 52 High Street, 71 High Street, 37A West Street. Ryde area, Domick, Ferry Road, Seaview. Cowes area, 28 Cross Street. Sandown area, 9 York Road.